Today we are talking season 2.5 of Marvel Rivals, and with me to discuss it, Tata, hello, welcome back once again.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. It's exciting. I like season 2.5 is nearly here, and lots to discuss with that. Some things we just did not expect at all, which I think is really cool. But first off, the thing that we really did expect, and that's ULTRON. So in this trailer, we get a look at ULTRON. First of all, the design. I mean, we've already seen his design a number of times because he was like the first kind of leaked character, wasn't he? So we've had him kind of. We've had a lot of time to get associated with the idea of ULTRON joining the game, but this trailer gives us a look at like his full look. First of all, like head to toe, and I think he looks great. I need a cape on him though, like stat, right? Like
I'm sure that will be one of his first costumes.
Yeah,
the ultimate ULTRON.
Yeah, and then we get a look at ULTRON, and we see some of his abilities, and he's got some kind of defensive right click that I keep seeing, and I think that looks quite interesting. It's like a rectangle, and I think that looks quite cool. Where was that? I need to see where I can find that in the trailer because he does show it at some point.
Yes, it does show it like about midway through.
Yeah, there, yeah, which is quite cool. I like the idea of having a shield that kind of comes up in front of him like that, especially because with him being an air tank. Not air tank, sorry, air support, should I say? This is gonna matter, right? He's gonna be a little bit more exposed than your usual strategist. So I think it's good that he's got this, as well as that. Earlier in the trailer, you do get a look at some of his movement. So he has kind of like dash. Like to shift away, he can shift up into the air or like dash off the side, which I think is really cool. So you've got like a character who is relative, like he's anti-dive in a way anyway because he's up a height to begin with. So you're not going to get every kind of dive character going for him, right?
Right.
But then you've got the fact he can get away as well. So I think they're definitely giving some more anti-dive options here, which I think is good. Obviously,
that was one of the biggest pieces during the announcement that they kept repeating was, well, this is going to be we're going to have to make new strategies because they moved away from the frontline pushes and more into the backline pushes, and they're nerfing a lot of the dive characters, which I'm looking forward to.
I think they're still going to be worthwhile. I think this is the case when you get these nerfs. In the right hands, these characters are still good. Like some people say Black Panther tickles, but then you get Black Panther players who are like top end, or relatively good, and they will destroy, right? So you've still got a good character. Really speaking, it's just that you can't cheese them, right? So I think that's what ULTRON's kind of designed to do here as well. Now, we do also see his E ability here. I'm just going to play it, and so that's his drone, which is pretty cool. I just think the way his kit looks. I mean, his ult. It's not as flashy as other people's ults necessarily, but the fact that there's like a horde of ULTRON bots that just surround him, and then they heal. I like how it's like. I like it that it's not an AOE frickin'. It's more of an empowered mode, right? It's not a circle AoE. Thank you for giving us a strategist that doesn't have a circle AoE heal. That just it makes everything invulnerable.
They had one for Rocket, but you know what? Everyone complained that the Rocket ult wasn't very good. Don't get me wrong, it's gotten better, but I always thought that the Rocket ult, when used properly with your team, could be devastating.
Yeah, as a damage
not use it.
Yeah. I like that this is like, I like that you can use ULTRON's ult. It's like a Jeff ult in a way, and I know people say, "What do you mean?" That it can be
closer to a Johnny ult almost. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's not holding an area like his tornadoes do, but it's definitely doing burst damage in specific areas.
Yes.
I was trying to think of another strategist that really does that, or another duelist that really does that.
They kind of don't. But so I think you can have. He's more of a hybrid character in a way. But what I was suppose I was saying with Jeff is that it's a strategist ult that can be used in like two different. It can be used sort of. It can be used as an attack or a heal, and like so you can use it at different points. Like a lot of people don't use Jeff's ult to heal, right? But it does have healing capability. You know, you can swallow your team and get them and kind of take them away and save them, right? So I think that's what you've got a little bit here. You've got a character who he's sort of cloak and dagger just all the time. You know, both of them at the same time. He's sort of that. He can do a lot of damage, but he can do a lot of heals as well. And I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. Because it's Ultron, right? And it makes sense. We'll come back to this a little bit later on as well, because obviously we'll be going into like the dev vision. But in this as well, they also talk about him having being able to use Iron Man's unibeams as well. He has a team up with him for that. Also, what I'm finding interesting is during this character art part in the trailer, there is a code or like a number, a string of numbers that shows up on the left-hand side. And I'm really wondering what that is.
I'm sure it'll be something that you input into the store to get a specialty.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering, if you get something from it, which would be cool if so. If they gave him like a unique classic look that you get from that or something, it'd be really cool. But that's Ultron. I think Ultron's going to make it. His kit is not the flashiest, and you know what? I think that's going to put a lot of people off him. Actually, even those people who are like looking forward to Ultron as a character, I think you know his kit it's very utilitarian. But I think that's the point with Ultron, right? I think you're meant to have a character that's he's not the most flashy of characters when just because he's a robot, right? You know, so it's going to be straightforward. It's going to be to the point, and I like that. In my opinion, I like that it's not an overly complex character. You don't need to break the bank, so to speak, to make a character cool. And I think he's going to add to the roster really well, actually. Yeah, I don't think I have an issue with his kit. I think it's very, very Ultron. Do you sort of agree?
I agree. I think with the way that Ultron's especially been used has been as a dominating, overwhelming force.
Yeah.
And I think the people who start playing him are going to either burn out on him really quickly or master him pretty quickly as well.
Yeah.
Mainly because, like you said, he's a strategist, but he's also going to be up in the air. So hopefully, this is where I say I've had an issue with so many teams that I've been on. They never seem to target the flyers. They will never switch to a person to target the flyers. It always ends up being to me as the healer or me as a tank trying to deal with the flyers.
Yes.
I'm not that accurate. I recognize that.
Yeah.
But there are specific DPSers who just plain old won't deal with flyers. This will hopefully change that.
What I think is good about Ultron as well is, and I think this is a smart thing, is that with his beam, you've got another healer that generally people can play even if they're not super aim efficient. And I think it allows you to, when you're playing in the air, you know, you've got Johnny, you've got Storm, you've got Iron Man, who can relatively maneuver around in the air. You've got someone who can kind of track them a little bit better as well. Like, I can imagine people going, right, okay, we've got a cloak and dagger, and we've got an invisible woman, but actually we've got a few flyers on the enemy team. Can we get a flyer up there? We can potentially do some damage with, like, you know, if you had an Ultron and on your team, you know, you can potentially do something there. Even as a third DPS to kind of keep that, like a third healer, sorry, to kind of keep that I think that's his place, right? He's almost like DPS into healing where necessary, right? I think he's going to fit that kind of Jeff, again, to use the Jeff kind of analogy, he's going to fit that Jeff sort of role in my head. That's where I see him.
Well, and we'll see if Jeff stays in that role, given the...
there is a few changes. Yeah, which we're going to get into. But that is Ultron. I'm very excited to see Ultron. Obviously, we haven't got what his skins look like yet, so it'd be interesting to see whether we get... we've never really got an MCU skin out of the gate for a character, so I'm assuming it's going to be a comic look. But you never know.
Captain America.
Well, sort of more, you never get one, you've never got one with a character release, right? So, like, we've had 5 characters released so far, and none of those have got an MCU skin on release. So I don't see Ultron getting one, but you never know. You never know what might happen, right? They could go for something crazy like the Vision skin or something, the Ultron...
the What If
Infinity Ultron, yeah. Right, now we have Season 2.5 kickoff. To clarify, first of all, the biggest part of this is coming out a week tomorrow, which is exciting in and of itself. We're very, very close to it now. And we're kind of going to go through and discuss the parts of this. New hero, new map. So we just saw the new hero, so we won't spend too much time on that. And the new map we've just saw in the same trailer as well. The ULTRON trailer gives you a look at it. It looks really cool. I like the way that they've kind of done well, because it's a sister island to Krakoa, they've done like a butchered kind of version of the island, right? They've done a kind of like you can see the foliage still, but you've got and I want to stop here. You've got like it's mechanically being taken over, right? It's very much like it gives me Cybermen from Doctor Who in a way. Like it's just been taken. They've taken over this area and just kind of totally transformed it. But what is interesting, I don't know whether you caught this, is halfway through them showing that map in the dev vision, they show a big robot coming out of the wall, and it looks a lot like Warlock from the X-Men, which makes sense. So I'm wondering if they're going to do something with that. Could they do something with that? Because we've been surprised before with the characters they're bringing out. We all thought ULTRON was going to be season 1. We all thought Blade was going to be season 1. That hasn't happened yet. Emma was sort of bandied back and forth, but what if this is a character that we just have not expected at all, and they're gonna do something with Warlock? I don't. Maybe not, but it would be interesting if they did.
Especially with the amount of effort that they have put into X-Men recently. I mean, first they got the Fantastic Four out, then they were starting to really emphasize some of the X-Men coming out. I do think with Krakoa being one of the main points for the X-Men, that X-Men are a pretty standard release for this era.
Yes.
But especially with their other announcement of they're going to start changing the seasons to be 2 months.
Yes.
It's going to be
really
all tight.
It's going to be all like go from here, right? That's the interesting part.
Yeah. I do wonder how they're going to do battle passes though, because that's something where I've liked these longer periods of time where, hey, I can invest into the battle pass, I can take my time with it. But I do wonder about for the more casual players, okay, am I really going to get to enjoy some of the aspects of this, or am I just going to, and again, I know that they're a business, I know they're trying to milk every dollar out of you.
Well,
but still,
it'll be interesting to see how they do it. Are they going to have the same size battle pass? And are they going to make the rewards higher per day? Or are they going to make smaller battle passes for cheaper, essentially? That will be the interesting kind of like go between, so to speak, because we've seen them do a smaller battle pass before. Season 0 was a smaller battle pass, right? So I'm wondering if that's the intent. Also, I think it's also worth mentioning that with the battle pass themselves, as long as you bought it, you can still get the stuff from it. So really, for a rival season, don't get me wrong, I like having it done in the season that it comes with. I get that. But if you don't, there's really no loss. So in a way, you could run on forever. You know, you could be 2 pages behind on a battle pass for each battle pass to come, but you would never lose anything. So it's one of those ones. I think you're right in a sense. I do agree that how is that going to look for the kind of player-based side of that? Like, yeah, it's cool for the idea of getting more characters. It's cool for the idea of rejuvenating the game every month. Yes. Yeah. But how is that going to look from the kind of gameplay cycle side? And you're totally right. I think that's an interesting comment. We were going to get to a little bit about that later, but I think we've kind of really covered that there and then thereabouts. Yeah. But we'll see. So the team ups now. Are they showing them here? Or yeah, they're showing them here. So let's start. So they've changed the Gamma team up to be just Hulk and Namor. Personally, I feel like Iron Man was being moved this way before this even happened, but he was definitely being moved to be more of a singular character anyway, because you were seeing Iron Man on his own in a lot more matches. Now, do I think I would prefer them not to keep changing the team ups as much as they're doing? Maybe, but I know why they're doing it. They want to kind of keep these team-ups fresh. And actually, I kind of like these team-ups a lot more in their uniqueness. Not necessarily what they're doing, and to a degree it is that. But the fact that you've got characters like the ULTRON and Iron Man one makes sense. That makes sense, right? I get it. Yeah. But like the Rocket Network is such a cool one. Having Penny
I
and
do like
Rocket
that.
have a team up is really interesting, and it really changes the dynamic of the battlefield, right?
It sure does, especially whenever there's already in-game dialogue about Rocket commenting on her suit. And
Yes.
I think that's going to be one of those pieces where, okay, in-game or even in comics, I haven't read the comics, I'll just admit that piece. But the conversations of, oh, hey, let me get a look at your tech, maybe I can implement that
Yes.
in some of mine. I will be interested to see, because with the new Rocket skin, how that's going to apply to it. Is it going to apply very well, or is it going to kind of look funny?
Yeah.
Um,
It is
because it
interesting.
looks great with the base form, but
Yeah.
I think the interesting other part in there, I think I've got this right, the way that it was worded was that you can either do dual of Penny's spider, uh, the actual nests, or
Yes.
you can have Rocket's revive be one of the extra nests. It's just a lot smaller, which I don't mind personally, because anytime that I put my revive down anywhere, seems like mine gets destroyed and no one else pays attention to the enemy teams.
Yeah.
So it's a
I'm not
fine
certain,
line.
because the way they showed it in the actual demo. So to clarify, the Rocket Network is allowing you to drop, as Tater's just said, either two of them, or there's a different new version of his BRB essentially. Now, again, we don't know how these are going to look in game as yet, and we will probably run through these as we get closer to the time, because I have a question similar for Jeff Nado in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Rocket Network, I don't know how it's going to operate, because this one's but what I will say is I do like that some of these team ups are more reciprocal. And what I mean by that is a lot of the anchors don't typically get stuff from these. This time with the Rocket
more
Network,
health, or like more armor, or
Yeah.
something kind of cheap like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
This
to see.
one from
Like
the Rocket Network being a kind of a reciprocal one is very cool. Then you have Chilling Assault. Now, I want to discuss this, because I don't know if I like the kind of, I get what they're doing, but I don't know if I love Chilling Assault and Operation Microchip. They both have Chilling Assault goes through terrain, right? Which is very interesting. Don't know how Hawkeye's arrow being turned to ice suddenly lets it go through walls. But
you think it'd be more fragile.
Yeah, but I think it could be interesting, and I like the idea of turning Luna's like her frozen into like another ability for another character, and I think that'll be interesting. And I think having Hawkeye have a little bit more CC is not necessarily a bad thing. So that's kind of cool. I like that one, that he gets a nice arrow. Symbiote Serum. Now, my question with this one is this something that Venom has to be in range of Jeff to use? Because in the trailer, I think they show them. It looks like it. It doesn't show it here, but anyway, it looks like you have to be close to him. But is that the case? Because if so, this is useless to me.
Right. Not to mention the change of playstyles, how they worded it. My friend who consistently plays Jeff as his main says it's going to be about a nerf, a total nerf of Jeff, making him relatively unplayable other than as a heal bot.
Yeah.
Which, again, strategists are not just healers. That is why they are called strategists in this game. Talked about that with ULTRON.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how do these actually work. I'm sure there'll be some testing with it.
Yes.
And some streamers will get early access and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I don't know how I like about this one yet. I don't know how I like this one at the moment. Operation Microchip, similar to what I'd said about this one. This basically, the easiest way to describe this is this makes Widow's rifle, when down the scopes, act like Sue Storm's primary fire, in that it can go through different targets and hit like in a line, right? So Widow basically becomes this kind of like, you can shred like 3 people at once if they're stood behind a tank or something like that. But does that change Widow enough to make her useful? I don't think so.
Again, much like you mentioned with the Black Panther piece, if you have a good enough player, if you have a good enough player, it makes it. Yeah. And again, you have to play around your team. None of these characters by themselves are carries.
Yeah.
You have to play around your team and match with your team comp. I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses of a lot of Rivals players is they don't match with their team. They match what they want to play, which again, fine. If that's how you want to play, go for it. But just know that means you might lose quite a bit.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. We'll come back to Jeff Nader because we do have in this video the look at that. So we'll come back to that. But let's talk about the ones that have been removed. So you've got Symbiote Bond gone. Now, Venom-wise, I don't think this matters because Venom's got a new anchor straight away. So that really doesn't matter for Venom at all. So for Spider-Man, I think this is going to hit. I think this is going to hit those Spider-Men because a lot of people say, oh, that's like the kind of like the pièce de résistance of my kit for getting in there and kind of surviving reliably, so to speak. It's interesting as well, Spider-Man, I feel sorry for Spidey on this one, actually, because Spidey now has no team up that he benefits from in the game, unless there's one that we've not been shown.
The ESU one, is that one? I think that one's sticking around.
Yes, but he's the anchor for that. So he gets a bit of health or whatever, damage or whatever it is.
Fluid as well. Like he can do a few more shots of webs.
Oh, does he? Okay, right. Sorry, that's my bad.
No,
but he hasn't got as. I feel like this is much more of a detriment to Spidey, which I'm not necessarily against.
I'm for it,
but I do think it's a bit weird. Like all the others have got moved to another ability there or thereabouts, and then I don't know. It feels weird for that one. Ammo overload. Now, they've clearly been wanting to get rid of this in small chunks anyway, because they got rid of Bucky out of it last time. So I feel like they've kind of just went, maybe this isn't like what maybe they don't want to go too crazy on the damage side of things at the moment, and maybe that's why they've gotten rid of this. Interestingly, though, I want to say this. They say completely removed like last time, but it still says unavailable, and they still show in the game. So I'm interested to see if that means that they're keeping them in there so people know that they're now no longer, active, or will they maybe rotate those back around eventually at some point? That's the interesting question, right? And then,
a very interesting question,
yeah, because you don't know, right? They said completely removed, but is that kind of not an error of translation, but is that like kind of something that they're not really being too clear on currently, if that makes sense?
I do think it's interesting because even when I'm currently in the Rivals game, and I'm even looking at the team ups, and while it says that Metallic Chaos and Voltaic Union from the last season are currently unavailable, not that they're removed.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't think it will be a completely removing of. It'll probably be more of a, we're going to test and see how this balances and maybe bring it back for, say, an anniversary of something.
Yeah. Or if they change the kits around again, another 10 characters down the line, some of these might come back in a different way, you never know. So that's kind of interesting in itself. Chilling Charisma. Now, this is a big one. This changes Jeff into a little nuke. Right, so I think this is what you're kind of getting at. I know who you're talking about regards the Jeff main, I think this is going to. I think this is actually maybe. Don't get me wrong; it's going to make Jeff less annoying in certain instances, but that's kind of a shame because Jeff wasn't the best healer in the game, but was an interesting third pick for those. It feels like they're kind of getting rid of a bit more of that third healer DPS strat, so to speak.
They're replacing him with ULTRON. I think that's the biggest piece of hey, people are so used to this. Let's change it up a bit.
Yeah, I think so. That one's a little bit of a shame, I think. And then Allied Agents. I honestly don't feel like this added anything to the game. I think this one's like the one where I'm just not sad. I'm sad in the sense that it's Hawkeye and Widow, and I like the team ups where they've got a little bit of comic accuracy to me, to them. Don't get me wrong, saying the ones above and that they're a little bit more unique in terms of the pairings, yes, but I think having the ones where you have some kind of comic accuracy of their team up is also cool. So it's a bit of a balance, but that one never really appealed to me, and I always forgot to use it. So yeah. Now, Jeff Nader. We have in the trailer here a look at Jeff Nader.
Are you not going to mention the other one that's getting removed?
The other one that's getting removed?
Yeah.
Which other one?
They're getting rid of the ammo overload for Rocket and Punisher.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, I must have missed that. Sorry.
No, we can go back to it, though, if you have something to say on it.
I think that it will definitely bring a little bit more balance to it, especially with Widow getting that team up with Punisher. I think it'll be really tough for Punisher mains who are just whining about, but this is how I get my kill. Oh, okay, well, if you can't do it without the team up, you probably weren't.
Well, that's me as so I main Wanda, as a lot of people know. And don't get me wrong, maybe not the hardest character in the game, but you have to be ready to be able to play in the playstyle where you have Doctor Strange's ability and you don't, right? And that's the same for all these characters. If you can't play them with their base kit, then like don't get me wrong, some characters just get inherently better with the team up, like Namor, for example, right? But there's still kind of a you can still do well with the base kit if you try, and that's me with Wanda, right? So like I can absolutely destroy people with the Strange the Strange team up, but but at the same time, if I can't do it without, then there's no point in me playing that character, in my opinion. Like, get good, so to speak, right? You know, maybe that's a bit strong, but yeah.
No, I get it. I feel the same way with Spidey's. It's like, okay, if you can't do it without your Venom team up, then you're probably not.
Yes.
If you can't do it with the Venom team up, you're definitely not good. Like, change.
So they're saying here that they've changed more than 50% of the team abilities compared to Season 0. And I like that they're trying to just keep things fresh. Do you know what? Regardless of what they do, even if it's not maybe the most popular choice ever, at least they're keeping it fresh. At least they're trying new things, and we can't really... You know, it's one of the things that they kind of have struck out on their own with team-up abilities. It's not really a thing in other shooter games. So I like that they're trying, they're changing, they're innovating, seeing what fits, what doesn't, even if it doesn't always land.
Especially with thieves are being heroes, and the heroes typically will work together in teams.
Yes.
Shooters won't always work together in teams. Congrats, you rely on your team for having a specific stratagem in terms of you talk Helldivers, or you talk Call of Duty in terms of who's got this, who's got that. Okay, great, but that doesn't really benefit other people as much as it is. I don't have to bring this thing. I would prefer not to. This actually brings some benefit to not just the people that are in it, but also the whole team.
Yeah, exactly. So going back, we have Jeff Nadeau here. And so the idea is that Storm and Jeff, very similar to Storm and Human Torch, can use their ult at the same time. And what it does is it basically pulls everyone into Storm's ult, and then Jeff will swallow them from Storm's ult. What I don't get with this, though, is how does this activate? Is this its own button for Jeff? Because we're looking at a Storm here. So does Jeff hit an X button and does he get swallowed
the way
up?
that it was described is that it's both of their ults combined, much like with the Johnny and Storm ult. So I think here's going to be the piece where I have a question of, does it have to be Storm always activating it first?
Yeah.
Because with Johnny's and Storms, it doesn't matter which one of them activates it.
Yes, because you've got... in fact, it's actually technically better if Johnny starts his first. Because you can actually go through his flames and get I think you can technically get longer on it than you would the other way around. I could be wrong on that. Anyway.
No, I don't disagree. Again, with the other one, though, with Jeff's ult, I don't know whether it's going to be, hey, within a certain X number of time, you then have to use yours, or vice versa. If Jeff starts it, how is that going to work in terms of pulling in people? And where is Storm going to know how to go? Like, I think that will be the other issue, because in the trailer, it looks like Jeff is waiting for the Storm to go.
Yes.
Again, it's in a practice range, so we won't fully know.
Yeah. It just seems... I like the ult combo, but this one, to me, I'm confused as to how it's going to work. That's my issue.
Which we will see.
Of course we will. Of course we will. So,
especially if you solo queue with Jeff or you solo queue with Storm, it'll be interesting trying to coordinate that without...
Well, that's the other thing. Sorry, I didn't even think about that. Is how does that work when you have a Storm and a Johnny and
a Jeff?
That's a great question. That's an interesting as well. Because does it just matter who gets to it first? Or, I can't imagine them doing this. Does it... Because... I mean, Johnny gets no benefit from it, so it doesn't really matter to Johnny. But if you're doing... Like, if you put a Storm ult down... and Jeff uses his ult, but a Johnny uses his ult, and you go across it, does it turn into a fucking fire thing, or does it turn? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's what does it?
No, I've not seen enough of the Sharknado movies to actually know if one of the Sharknadoes gets turned on fire. I'm sure it does, so it's possible. I don't know.
Who knows?
It'll be an interesting thing. I'm sure that people will combine those two. Don't get me wrong. But if it does cancel out one or the other, I think that's going to be a bit of a...
it's a sticking point. It's one of those ones where I find it weird that they didn't get rid of one for the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're now telling me that there's two Storm ults that are like variants, so to speak.
Right.
You know,
Storm will basically be the anchor point. I mean, I'm trying to think of another character that really is like that.
There isn't.
Hulk. Hulk has multiple He's the anchor point for two major pieces, fastball special and gamma charge. But even then, that's not
That's
really an
like,
alt thing. That's more of a pass.
yeah, and fastball special. Don't get me wrong. I think it's one of the most iconic things that they've got in the game, team up wise. But it doesn't really do anything. You know what I mean? In the nicest possible way, it doesn't really.
Whenever you've played Wolverine, I don't know if you've had a very good Hulk or thing being able to throw you. I've seen it used in games very effectively.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Yes, it can be used well. I find that typically it's not used at all. If then well, you know,
right, because it does take communication.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest weakness of this community is in order to use a lot of these things, you don't need to communicate. But that one specifically, you kind of have to.
And this one's looking the same, right?
Yeah, and that's why I don't think I see a lot of the stars aligned beyond the first week when it came out, the Cap and Bucky combo.
Yes.
Because you have to look for your other guy. Like that's pretty much it. So it's kind of...
Yeah, from the Cap side of it, you definitely do it. And the Bucky side, half the time you find that you've actually already used it. So let's move on to something that's really exciting and a little bit crazy. I did not expect this. The new experimental mode, the auto chess mode.
Yes,
I kind of find this crazy that they've done this, but you know, we've seen this in other kind of games that are not dissimilar, competitive games. You know, League has done something like this. I'm trying to think of any others off the top of my head, but League comes to mind, obviously, with their.
I don't know what that is.
League of Legends. What you mean? What you mean?
I know. I've seen.
So the idea being you create a team of characters and you kind of you go through and pick different for each unique role, increased strategy for primary weapon fire. You go through all these and you kind of basically build out characters so that you can compete against other people in this auto chess mode. And I think it's a really cool idea to have something like this. And you know what? This is what I've constantly said, and you know I have. Oh my gosh, I've just seen. Oh no, I thought I wondered if that little thing in the corner was a different ULTRON skin, but it's not. I think it's just the ULTRON bot. I was like, whoa, what's that? So what I think is interesting about this is exactly what I talked about when I was talking about these like different game modes that I want them to make, not being just gimmicks, right? This isn't a gimmick. This is an actual other mode. This is a totally different way to enjoy the Marvel Rivals universe. You could actually see if this stays permanent eventually, obviously it's limited time this time round, but if this stays permanently, you could see people downloading Marvel Rivals to play this, but maybe not even necessarily the main game, quote unquote, right? Right. And I actually think it's a really cool idea. I want to see what they're doing with it. I want to see if they're going to give unique rewards to it. They probably are, to be fair. But it's a really cool idea, and I'm glad that they're trying something different. I like how it also feels like a testing ground for cool ideas to do with kits and stuff, right? So, for example, they're talking about Venom growing larger by way of getting... You know, could you do something like that in the base game? Maybe not so much that one, but Psylocke getting more hits on a roll, or Hela's attacks going out in different like separated projectiles. Like, it's a nice little testing ground if people go, oh, we really like that in that mode. Can that be implemented into the main game somehow? And like, you know, it's a little testing ground in a way, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, I'm also very glad that they are not doing like they did with the big head, whatever, in that it's just going to be its own. Like, you don't have to compete with other people.
Yes.
It'll just be nice to have its own.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, some quality of life updates, which we've been getting a lot of, I will say. They just did the one. I thought this was quite cool. I know some people have been commenting on this. They've just done the one where you can revert the skin back to the original voice line. So, like the Loki skin, if you didn't like how his voice sounded under the Butcher skin,
All Butcher.
You can, the All Butcher, you can turn it back to his usual voice, but still have that skin on. I think that's a really cool way of doing it. Of just allowing that to be removed if you don't like how that character sounds under a different skin. But more interestingly, proficiency avatars, mood, and emoji systems. So first off, the proficiency avatars, basically when you're in your in the loading screen, not the loading screen, the hero select screen, you will now be able to see lords. If you have it activated, you can see which lord characters you have. Obviously, you know which characters you've got as a lord, but it's nice to be reminded when you go into the screen. It looks cool, just like for especially someone who streams. it's nice for people to be able to see that at a first glance of what you're actually good at, you know? Oh, I'm picking this character. Oh, are you good at it? Yeah, I've got Lord on it, you know? What were you saying there? Sorry.
Hashtag humble brag.
Yeah, it is kind of. It is. We actually had I was playing last night and we had a guy like that. They went through every single tank and they were like, look, oops, another Lord, another Lord. I actually told him to touch grass at the end. But there you go. So we've got that, which is a very small change, but a cool one. And then they've done these little moods, which I think are really cute as well. So you can have them on your like nameplate, your friends list, and your career profile. And like currently they're showing Chibi Galacta, and which some of them are obscured by my camera there. But they're showing Chibi Galacta and Chibi Jeff. And I think they're quite cool. Like they've clearly been watching the community as well, because one of them is a little Hulk fist punching Jeff, which I think is quite. They're clearly playing into community interest in the characters and the way they're kind of the memes are kind of unfolding about the game. As well, there's little emojis for in-game, which I think is cute as well, like little frustration emojis and little like heart emojis and stuff. Again, just allowing you to kind of communicate with people differently when in the game. I mean, it's base stuff, it's in other games, but I love the way Rivals are doing it. What do you think, Tate? The same sort of thing?
Yeah, I definitely think that having just some sort of flavor of fun beyond just the competitive nature of this game is just going to keep this game going beyond just, hey, I want to play for fun. Or sorry, I want to play to win, because not everybody's going to be able to.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to enjoy that. This can be just a relaxing way. Me, I was never a big fan of the Overwatch community for that reason. It always felt like you have to constantly win.
Yeah.
But for this one, I feel like, hey, if I want to compete, great, I can. I'll get in those moods every once in a while.
Yeah.
But other times, if I just want to have fun, I can. I can say, fuck it, it's quick play.
Yeah, I totally agree. So new team ups. Oh, here we go. Sorry, let's go through these again quick. So just show these quick. So there's the symbiote one. There's the microchip one. We've got the ice arrow one there. We've got the Penny, and this is what we were talking about here. Like, so that looks like Penny puts down the second one. But does that mean Rocket can't put his down? I don't think so. I think it's just the way they've shown it. They've kind of shown it in two parts.
It is the limitations of the trailer versus the actual gameplay.
Well, especially
play with it.
And they can't show like new matches, because then they're just showing everything all at once, right? And it'll get confusing. So yeah, there's the Jeff NATO as well there. It does look like, so what I see there is, I think if a Jeff has to stand near Storm's ult and press X. So I'm wondering if it's like the Johnny one where that's what it looks like to me. So I'm wondering if it'll come up with like a press X to confirm type thing, and you'll basically join in Storm's ult. That's what it looks like to me there. Now, balance adjustments. They're going to be nerfing some characters. They're going to be changing some characters. They said that they kind of enjoyed how the season went last time. They think it changed it up a little bit, but they want to change things going forward. So, Spider-Man and Venom and Captain America and Iron Fist, they're going to get a little bit nerfed. Groot is going to get nerfed as well, I believe. As well as I think Mr. Fantastic, Namor, and some of the team ups as well. Balance roadmap. Here we go. Balance roadmap. So, sorry, I'm just getting to the actual part where they start showing the little infographics.
I only saw that dive characters were getting nuked, and I was like, yes, please.
Yeah. So Magneto and Strange are getting a buff. We don't know the details fully of these at the moment, but they're getting a buff. We're getting Captain America health decrease of some kind. Emma's down form is also going to be altered. I'm assuming that they're going to make it so she's maybe not as resistant to as many things, but I don't know yet. Duelists, we've been nerfing Iron Fist, Human Torch, and Psylocke. All good characters for kind of keeping a little bit more health in the game. And Punisher, Squirrel Girl, and Storm are getting buffs. I don't know if Storm and... I don't know if any of those characters need a buff. I think they're all pretty in a sensible place, but go ahead. Let's see what happens there.
And again, a buff can be anything from bonus health to bonus damage.
Well, that's the thing. A buff doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be doing more damage. Yeah. You're right. You are right there. That can be maybe allowing them to get like a little bit more of
increase the recharge time, decrease the recharge time for different skills.
Speaking of recharge time, they're changing Luna slightly. They're making her ult more expensive to actually gain, but they're changing her healing when not in ult to be a little bit more in line to allow her to kind of sustain up to that point. So that's interesting.
Well, yeah, because she is one of the harder to keep alive unless your team is also positioning well around you. Because again, if you're caught because your tank has backed up way too far, now you've got a 360 run away. But by the time that you 180, you might have already gotten take out. So it is a different thing. She has a way out, but it's unlike the other healers where you go fast.
Yes, you still get hit in the head. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then the Jeff adjustment, like you said, which we don't know what that means necessarily yet, but yeah. Team ups wise,
we have seen. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna say so far what we have seen, it seems like they put a number limit on his bubbles from 6 to 3, which for Jeff players is a huge change.
It is.
It is one of those things that just sounds insane. On top of that, it almost looks like that they have also put a limitation on his damage bubbles. So the ones that he spits at enemies, they've also changed that to 3. We'll kind of see if that changes anything.
Like, is it bigger burst or is it good? Like, that might be the interesting thing, isn't it? Is it going to be?
We've only seen screenshots.
That's what I mean. Is it going to be like that? He's got a higher damage with each of those, and like that way, or is it different? So we'll see about that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But then the Fantastic Four are getting a nerf to their team up. I'm interested to see that. Nearmore is getting a nerf to his, and the Emma Frost Magneto combo is getting a nerf as well. I think that's pretty much it. Now, apart from, as we had said earlier, they are changing the seasons. They said about this in this too, but we'll see how that goes going forward. They're also going to be releasing hero pick rates and win rates soon. Probably tonight. They usually release it pretty much the same day, and then we'll get a little bit more info about 2.5 probably sometime soon, definitely, because it's coming out next week. But we'll see how it goes. Obviously, as always, guys, we'll be. I've got the day off work, so I'll be here straight away, showing you guys the update and going through and having a look at what it looks like. And Tata, thank you for joining. Thank you for being here and discussing this with me. Always love having a discussion about Marvel Rivals, and we'll be back soon to discuss more. Until then, guys.
Honestly, who knows? Next time we might have a special guest, Nate Nez, on.
You never know. Yeah, that's true. And we might be talking about another hero the next time we're here. Who knows? So thank you guys, as always, for watching. Thank you guys for being here. And Tata, thank you for coming in and having a chat with me about these updates and what we think of them.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Nice for having you. Nice for having you. We're going to end it there. Guys, I'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.